A very happy Independence Day to our listeners. Common man is the leitmotif of Independence Day celebrations, common man and women. And in that celebration, if there's a fly this time, it is the news that just last week, the auditor of one of India's biggest firms, Adani Ports and SEZ, has resigned.
Also under pressure after Deloitte stepped down as the company's auditor. In fact, not just Adani Ports, you have pretty much the entire Adani group of stocks which are seeing some pressure today.
दिखा है कि जो अडानी पोर्ट के जो स्टैट्यूटरी ऑडिटर है डेलॉइट है, उन्होंने रेजिग्नेशन दे दिया है.
So Deloitte has now decided to resign as auditor of India's Adani Ports on concerns regarding financial transactions flagged by Hindenburg.
This is big, not only because Adani Ports and SEZ is a cash cow, but it's leaving. When Deloitte has left, it has left the field open for law firms to battle it out in the courts to decide who is in the correct position. That will not bring out the truth, because audit is where a firm actually shows its true wares. A court is a place for simply handling legal issues. And this vacation or this leaving out of the perch is something that should concern us. And this is what we shall be discussing in this issue of the Independence Day On Point. This week, the Adani Group has told the stock exchange that its auditor for Adani Ports and SEZ has resigned, saying Deloitte indicated a lack of wider audit role as auditors of other listed Adani portfolio companies. Now, this is interesting. Earlier this year, in January to be precise, Adani Group was rocked by allegations by investment advisory firm Hindenburg Research that there was a lack of corporate governance standards in the group. As a result, the group lost more than 120 billion in market cap since then. It has recovered a lot, but it was a startling hit. Now, corporate governance is linked to audit quality. So therefore, what happens with auditors becomes very important in this entire picture. Corporate governance is a challenge to implement not only in India but also in the rest of the world. So India is not unique, but what happened, the sequence of events, let's get to see. Before Deloitte, several auditors like S.R. Bartley Boy, a member firm of the Ernst & Young, had also apparently issued qualified opinions on the financials of Adani Power Limited, while a member of the global accounting giant KPMG has also resigned as co-auditor of Adani Green Energy in 2021. Now, auditors understand a company far better than anyone because they look into the books of the company. So, corporate governance issues should be something that they would first be able to look at compared to anybody else outside the company or even the broad group of investors, any other activist groups, or just about any other constituency which looks at a company. Now, Adani Ports and SEZ is a very important company in the Indian matrix. Why so? Because this company is the largest port operator in India, and not just in India. In March 2021, this company got a mandate from the Sri Lankan government to develop the west terminal of Colombo port. Because of internal problems in Colombo that it really couldn't go through, and in July this year, Adani Ports has held discussions with Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe to begin work on the terminal. In Myanmar, Adani was the port operator for one of the terminals of Yangon. It has sold its stake because of international outcry about involvement with the military junta in Myanmar, but the point is that this is a very significant company. So what it says matters for the Indian Incorporated. Now, didn't Deloitte know then? That is a very serious allegation. This time it is saying, and I'll quote that sentence again, that it's not getting access to the other firm's books. Deloitte indicated a lack of wider audit role as auditors of other listed Adani portfolio companies. These issues could have been flagged then. Why not? Did it wake up only when the Hindenburg report flagged the problems? Or the SEBI report, which has now been postponed by 15 days? Because let's look at this data. The Deloitte's notes to financial statements as auditors, both for FY23 and the June quarter, mentions that Adani Ports renegotiated the terms of sale of its container terminal under construction in Myanmar with Solar Energy Limited, resulted in an impairment loss of rupees 1273.38 crore. Or take this other one. In the review report on Adani Ports, Deloitte has mentioned a net balance of rupees 3871 crore recoverable from a contractor which provided EPC services, because the company said that the contractor was not a related party. But, and this is an important but, Deloitte says, however, the contractor was identified as a related party in a short seller, which is the Hindenburg research report published in January 2023. Why hadn't the auditor found it? And this becomes a very major issue, because if the auditor hasn't found it, and after this, when the auditor moves out and there is a possible legal battle ahead. Decades after Satyam or IL&FS, audit firms are not where investors get to know the bad news first. In a court battle, unlike an auditor's query, it is about who can marshal a better argument. It might lead to some party or other winning, but it doesn't give to the investors the clarity on the problem. This clarity is what comes from, or should come from, a good auditor's role. As India Inc. becomes bigger, we are moving towards a $5 trillion economy. We need auditors to be able to come up with reports in time and which say clearly where are the problems in corporate governance. These are not to be decided in courts. A law firm, and I am being very respectful about the role of the law firms, has to defend its client. It will marshal arguments which make the client appears better. Just as the prosecuting department would also bring in lawyers to show why the prosecution should happen. But in that arguments, those back and forth, the quality of discovery of the balance sheet of a company takes the back seat. This is the role that the auditors are supposed to have played, and when they instead move away, they leave the field open for court battles, which does not help. These things could have been solved because both the market regulator SEBI and the Ministry of Corporate Affairs have given enough forensic powers to the auditors to do that sort of an examination. A forensic audit is supposed to do exactly that. But the role of forensic audit is now gradually passing on to law firms. And therefore, one wonders that whether the protection of investors, which is the ultimate aim of these measures, is being served by the tribe of auditors. If there is a problem with Adani Ports and SEZ and Deloitte hasn't found it, then here comes the role of another government agency, the National Financial Regulatory Authority. It must ask some difficult questions because it is the regulator for auditors, and it must understand that this is where the interests of the common man and women as investors stand. That is a fundamentally important point to remember at this Independence Day. And that's all from this issue of On Point.